Yeah, Superbooth 2026. We're here at Expressive-E, and you brought out the Osmose CE this year.
Yes, this is correct. Welcome to the Expressive-E booth.
And this is basically an MPE keyboard, and all the sounds come from the DAW, or is it a plugin, or is it an extra engine, a separate application?
It's an application, Control-E, that comes with the MIDI controller, so that you have over 900 expressive sounds to play right away. But it still totally works as your regular MIDI controller, the Osmose CE. So what isn't included is a piano sound in our own stuff, because most people already have one, but...
Yeah, I was wondering about that, because with the regular Osmose, you got all kind of felt pianos, but not a nice one like this.
Yeah, sure, because people already have
So this is private.
Yeah, I'm just using Piano Tech in this case, but we just want to take the fear away that people wouldn't be able to play all the regular stuff they own anyway with our expressive keyboard. That's all this is about.
Okay, and then this is basically just like the Osmose. Controls are a bit different because it has no internal engine.
We are introducing for the first time, but it will come to Osmose Synths as well later on, DAW control mode, where directly on the controller, on the MIDI controller, I can open and close my plugin interfaces. I can scroll through my DAW project, as you see here on the screen. I can deactivate the loops. I can go through the different plugins on the left side. I can change the volume of the track that I've selected. I can do undo, redo, tap my tempo, everything directly from Osmose CE for supported DAWs for Cubase, Logic, Ableton Live, Bitwig.
Yeah, but for example, the tempo, you can also get the tempo from this application or from an external MIDI clock.
Yeah, for sure. That's possible. That's for sure, yeah.
So it has like pretty much all of the connections except for the audio out.
Yeah, exactly. And we've upgraded to USB-C. And if you're using it without a computer, which is totally fine as well, just to drive your modules or your hardware synthesizers, you would need just a smartphone or USB charger, and it would work as well and be powered through that. So that's convenient. You don't have to worry about taking.
Do you know how many amperes it takes?
Yes, 3, I think. So it's 15 volts, 3 amperes,
so
5
it needs
volts.
to be a very powerful power bank.
Nowadays, yeah, power bank wise, yes. But at the same time, I've got my power bank that's 100 watt, not to be boasting about, but since I'm using it with my laptop, so yeah. But most nowadays, like when it's come to plugging it to the wall, nowadays phone chargers should all work actually.
But you can just connect it to, I don't know, some Poly and Play with some USB out. This would be probably too weak because it's only like 2 amp.
Yeah, that's possible. You can double check on the website if I was right about the ampere, but I think just to say that one highlight is that when it comes to all the configurations that you would need for these different modes, if I were still on my, let's say this piano plugin would be my external synthesizer without a dashboard application directly on the instrument, I could tell him which channels he's going to use, whether he's perhaps even going to use multi-channel. Let's say I have an OB6.
Maybe let's just go through the basics, select a preset, do some effects, whatever the Osmose already did, and maybe you can just shortly demo it on this one, because it's exactly the same, pretty much.
Yeah, depends on when you're using that as an external MIDI controller, you have all the possibilities to set up the channels it's going to use, the sensitivity, whether the bending is going to react or not, what is sent by the different dimensions, the expressive arpeggiator and so on. But I think what is interesting is perhaps when we're really on a track that has our companion app on it, the Control-E software that I can close and open here. Let me check. There it is. How the workflow works with that. So we deliver the 900 expressive presets. As soon as I'm on a track with Control-E on it, I can directly from the controller decide which of the plugins I wish to use. So there's not only our own plugins like Noisy 2, but also those of partners from Synths Audio, from Dawson, from GeForce, Kilohertz, and there are 2 synthesizers coming with Control-E. and it is on the one hand Vital by Vital Audio, very capable MPE, capable synth as well, and Cyclop by Dawson.
Can you play this?
Yeah, of course. So if I were to choose Vital, then I would love to have a brass sound. I would love to have a, bright brass sound, and then he's got some duplicates because he had beta versions installed before, so sorry for this. But I think that, let's just see what happens here. We back down the volume a bit.
Yeah, and then of course it does all the usual Osmose thing with the wiggle and
yes, so it's all polyphonically
aftertouch,
pressure, all independent per key, aftertouch, independent per key, and wiggle.
Yeah, I know, this expressiveness is crazy.
It's all here for all the 900 sounds that are there. Then I have access to, so this is the navigation page for finding the sounds across all the different engines. Then I have the macro page where I've got access to 8 macros that have been pre-chosen by the sound designer, so I could get ahead and globally turn up the phasing or the drive on that sound, flanger effect. Really depends. And if I wish to go further, I would switch over here and open through the button, this little puzzle icon, open the full interface of the synthesizer inside, and then I can go ahead and remap the macros if I wish to, or just reprogram the entire sound, save it as my own sound.
Is this like a preview of the new editing engine that you're planning of the Osmose?
No, that's not connected. Still, this Control-E application that has all the software sounds we offer in one interface, easy to access. It's still a reference design-wise and workflow-wise for what will be coming for the Osmose instrument editors, those overlays, where you're controlling the internal engine and reprogramming the internal engine of the Osmose synthesizer.
And the 900 sounds included in this, do they differ from the regular Osmose? Because in the Osmose it's very cinematic, it's often very dark. And now I'm seeing here like 20 different brass sounds.
Yes, those worlds, they are entirely different. So what needs to be explained perhaps, so there's the internal Eagan matrix sound and the black one in the Osmose synthesizer, standalone synthesizer, that has a specific character to it. And since the release of Osmose, we've worked together with other plugin manufacturers, like the ones I've mentioned before. We brought out our own plugins just to give people a broader palette of sounds to play with. We actually started out, I can briefly show you, with Faceplant sounds. So let's say I'm looking for a sound from Faceplant here and want to go with something that is in the mallet category. I could go ahead and perhaps use this sound here. Let me check.
Yeah, that's more like the regular Osmose.
But there's also some wavetable sounds. Let me check here and deactivate wasn't here.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I had the impression that a lot of people bought this and they were thinking of a synthesizer. But what it's actually more like is like a classical instrument. So especially with the expression. So I couldn't find a lot of, typical synthesizer sounds like a 303 or something. Are there more sounds like that in this included now?
Oh yeah. In this case, I would go over to the stuff from Synths Audio, because they do a great job at, in this case, a pumped up mini Moog, so to say. Let me check. Perhaps a pad sound would be great in that regard. Tunesc. Let me see what that is about. By the way, when I'm making these little mistakes, these odd bends, I could always decide to go to the sensitivity menu, disable bending completely, so that I can be sure, no matter how I wiggle.
But these are pretty much the same controls as in the regular Osmose.
They're the same sensitivity controls that are available there as well. So just to completely answer the question from before, so there's the Eagan matrix for the internal sounds of the Osmose and the black Osmose synthesizer, the original one, and then we build an ecosystem of software sounds around it with partners, and we're now bringing all those software sounds into the Control-E interface. So all the flavors that you get there, they're completely independent from what is offered for the Osmose synthesizer internal engine. Just adding a different palette of sounds, depending on what you're looking for, whether it be wavetable or more like classic analog modeling, as with the stuff from Synapse Audio, or very flexible modular arrays in Faceplant. It is there for you to choose from, and most of all, you don't have to configure every individual plugin for MPE. You don't have to search through sounds in every individual plugin, but you just choose your type if you're looking for a bass sound or looking for a pad or looking for a key sound, and you can find it across all the different engines. So those partners, they literally gave us the engine without the interface.
So what would you say is this for? Is this for people who need a really, really good MPE controller, or is it for people who want all the Osmose sounds and possibilities, but without the Haken engine, and who are happy to still use something in the DAW?
Well, of course, there's the segment of people who want to enter this Expressive-E and have the nice interaction with the keyboard, but they didn't do it before because it was simply too expensive for them. You can be frank about it. But then there's also a big segment of people where we really believe in, and we get the reactions now as well, that are just looking for something as a main controller for their production environment, where they don't have to relearn everything new, so they can still play piano parts, synth parts, and then they have the additional possibilities with the expressive sounds just to produce music a little bit more fluently and have the DAW control as well. So we're not trying to replace like a fader controller where you control the volumes of 8 tracks at the same time, but your central keypad, this one really does it really well, and it adds on top of that of the workflow that you already know.
And you can also switch between the very sensitive touch to a classical touch.
Yeah, it does that automatically. So for the DAW app that are supported, Ableton Live, Bitwig, Cubase, and Logic, when I'm on a track that has Control-E on it, it's going to give me the navigation, and it's going to activate MPE and all the individual key control. But if I'm navigating to a track that has a piano on it, or some non-Control-E sounds, it's automatically switching to this external config keyboard menu that you know from
that's
the
a heart
Osmose
attack.
keyboard. Yeah, well, or it's just mono channel, so it's setting up, it's kind of a fallback MIDI mode that's automatically applied when there's no Control-E on a track. And then you can go from there and perhaps use multi-channel workarounds for your sample library, so you can still adapt everything on the instrument itself. But basically, the standard functionality would be that you can play either Control-E with all the possibilities, and then without having to think about it, play all the regular synths and pianos that you're already in your setup.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that. I was trying to bring in a jazz pianist, and he would really have to relearn his instrument. But if I can switch to classic keyboard, that's no longer a problem.
Yeah, we've got an amazing presenter here who's doing a... He can do a pause now for the first time. Tomasz from Poland is a really great keyboardist, really jazzy, classical everything. He's a real virtuoso, and he still plays some piano stuff on it. He can't replace a grand piano, that's for sure, or your hammer action. But it's at least as good and as responsive as your regular synth keypad that a lot of people use. So this really ensures that you don't have to relearn an entirely new interface. You can still play with the stuff you already use.
Okay, this is available now. How much is this costing?
The 49 keys versions is 1,000, and the 61 keys version is 1,200.
Okay, and as I can see, I can also access it via pedals down there. So it got all the connections really in the back of the back one.
Yeah, it's got two expression pedal inputs that can either use as a sustain or half damper pedal or expression pedal to send some MIDI CCs.
Okay, then any news on the regular Osmose, like the editor you mentioned? Do you have a time frame for that?
Yeah, so first of all, apologies because it's always taking longer, but it's totally still on our roadmap to bring out those instrument editors, the overlays where you reprogram the internal sounds for the Osmose synth. We're currently talking about beginning of fall there, but don't, as we say, nail me, fix me on this promise. But it's the idea is really, and this is also why we're bringing all this DAW control and Control-E application for free for all existing Osmose synth users, to have one big customer base that can profit from everything that we're developing. So they can rest assured that we're still pushing the Osmose synth as well further.
So are you also
editors.
working on new firmware for the Osmose? Like, for example, maybe making the MIDI implementation more transparent?
Yes. Yeah, actually, that is part of the firmware as well that we're planning. We're kind of putting things on their feet when it comes to the external MIDI integration, the programming of the Eagan editor. So there's going to be separate Well, I don't want to get too nerd. But
yeah, it's not very clear.
The main idea is all the stuff that people that wish to integrate it with MIDI CCs in bidirectional, it's gonna work in the future. Where sometimes there's
over
still some yes, yeah. So
great.
It's gonna send from the potentiometers MIDI CCs and back and forth, so you can use the overlays. You can still use the Eagan editor. You have all the functionality of DAW control, everything on the Osmose synth. It's kind of making it in a more structurized way that we didn't have the time until now.
Yeah. And do you have a time frame for that?
It's all this year, somewhere.
Finally.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thanks very much.
Great pleasure.